recording.
There we go.
Then I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
And hopefully now we're doing it all. Let's see.
Okay.
We're going to call it good. So let's begin like the professionals that we are. I'm going to welcome everybody to the weekly energy roundup. We got to learn how to talk here, Al.
Okay.
At least I do. Maybe I shouldn't start drinking so soon in the afternoon. I'm kidding. So with Dave and Al, I'm Dave. Al's on the other side. Say hi, Al.
Hi, this is Al Kopatschek over here. Actually, River AP.
Right. So this is the inaugural edition of what we're calling the weekly energy roundup. Right now, I hope we come up with a better name for this as we go along. That's just something that I coined to get a conversation going between Al and myself. My background, just a quick intro. I'm an oily through and through. It's all I know anything about. I spent 40 years in the industry, in the upstream E&P sector as a fluid specialist, and managed to learn quite a bit about other aspects of oil field operations. I've been retired for a few years now, writing articles on Seeking Alpha, getting to know Al as a part of that, and have come to develop so much respect for his knowledge of Canadian oil companies that is what actually gave me the idea for doing this. So Al, you go ahead and take the mic for a second here and introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Al Kopatschek. So I've been investing more or less since 1988 with Dave Brinker when he used to be on the radio with mutual funds, and then eventually made a killing back in the .com era, and then proceeded to lose it all in 2000.
So many people did.
9/11. Yeah, I got cleaned out on 9/11 because I was on margin, and by the time they opened the stock market 7 days later or whatever, I got wiped out. So anyhow, I started investing in Canadian oil and gas names back in 2010 when I was looking for dividend income, dividend place for my retirement account, my IRAs. Anyhow, so been doing that. Otherwise, I'm a retired truck driver for worked for FedEx Freight for the last 26 years. Before that, I used to work for other outfits. But anyways, I'm out here in Las Vegas and enjoying life, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay, let's move along so we don't lose the interest of the folks tuning in here. First topic is the dumbest thing that I need to move the, let's see. There we go. All right, we'll get the mechanics of this down here pretty. I hope people don't expect professional level quality right out of the bat. So this was my contribution to the dumbest thing that Joe Biden did this week. I'll just throw, starting from the left, you know, this Biden trip to Saudi Arabia, it is absolutely the most ridiculous thing, born of desperation. You know, he can't get anything else right about, you know, the economy, energy, whatever. So he's the people that kind of Sherpa him have said, hey, maybe if you fly halfway around the world on Air Force One and do a lot of pomp and circumstance, you can get Mohammed bin Sultan to come out of his castle and spend a few minutes with you. And you can then publicly say, hey, you know, would you mind raising your output ceiling? What do you think of that, Al?
Well, it seems like now, looking back, it seems like it was a trial balloon because they didn't even make the reservations on the trip and they already canceled it. Apparently, they figure that Saudi Arabia was more friendly with Russia now.
Well, that occurred to me as well. But you know, in the OPEC meeting, just the other day, they raised their ceiling to ostensibly to accommodate for the lack of Russian oil on the market, although I have my doubts as to how much Russian oil is actually off the market. So that this trip was supposed to be kind of a, you know, a way to mend fences between the Biden administration and the Saudis in appreciation for doing that. And hopefully they would take that a little further. I don't think it's going to happen because of something you just said, but I'll just say, I think the Saudis have their doubts about the U.S. as an ally, justifiably, and they're not going to cozy up to us the way they have. They're making inroads with the Russians. They've not publicly condemned what's going on in Ukraine. So I think this is just a sideshow.
Yeah, also, I think that Saudi Arabia is actually even buying probably arms from the Russians too now. But on what you said about the OPEC increases, actually, some of the comments I read on Twitter was that basically what they did was just carry forward their September increases, and they split them up over the next 2 months. So they're gonna go like 460 each or whatever, instead of one big jump in September. And but the thing is, though, it's only just 2 or 3 countries that can actually, increase.
Right, exactly.
All the other rest of OPEC can't even do anything right now, and they're
what I have read. What I have read is that OPEC as a cartel is currently underproducing quota by 2.5 million barrels a day.
Right, and then now with Russia coming off, it's not coming off quite yet,
Yeah.
but they're going to lose at least some of the production and some of the oil fields from the wells where the Americans and the Canadians were over there helping them out with the oil field service outfits. I know Calfrac from Canada used to be over there in Russia, and then you have Chevron. I mean, not Chevron, but Exxon pulling out, and all the color names. What was it? Halliburton and Schlumberger, right?
Right.
Pulled out. So a lot of these fields, they're going to end up probably having to shut them down because they're not going to find the expertise there to keep them going, I think. But that's not going to happen for another few months or whatever.
Right. It'll take, I think it's probably going to happen because the service companies make all the hardware that hooks the wells up.
Right.
And it's not done in a vacuum. This stuff is sourced globally. I'll guarantee you very little of it's made in Russia.
Right.
It comes out of Houston. There's a manufacturing in Vietnam and the Far East and places like that, but it's not made in Russia. So when they work down their inventory and they don't have the people who really know how to hook it up, you're going to see Russian production start to tail off.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that they probably have to order is probably 6 months in advance. So whatever they're not ordering today, it's going to show up. It's not going to show up 6 months from now or whatever.
That's a great point. They're at the very end of the supply chain right now. They're not on anybody's list.
Right.
So,
yeah. So this whole thing, all it's going to do apparently is increase the tanker fleet, because now there's going to be a lot of the stuff that the Russian stuff that used to go by pipeline over to Europe. Now it's going to go on ships. Before it used to also go by ship to Europe, and now these ships are going to have to go longer distances, which means you're going to need more ships in order to fill in the gaps and move the stuff to further, to other places. And also even the refined products, the Chevron came out this week saying that there's never going to be another
I saw
refinery
that.
built in the US, which means that there are more refineries in India and wherever else in the world. They're going to be sending more China, going to be sending more refined products over to the US, which means more tankers and more cost, to ship all that stuff.
And more fragility in the supply chain,
Right.
It's well, again, it's just another silly sidestep. I don't think there's anybody in the Biden administration who has any real world experience, because the stuff we're talking about, is not really highbrow intellectual. It's obvious, but it's not obvious to them.
Well, because they don't have anybody that's ever had a real job in the private sector, so
There you go.
real life
Exactly.
experience. For
How
example,
about this windfall oil profits tax?
Yeah,
What do you think of that, Al?
well, it's going to be just like what's happening in UK, where they just proposed this 25%
Yeah,
hike in windfall profits tax, and the oil companies say, well, I guess we're going to just have to curtail our work. And heck, if I was Shell, if I was BP, I would say, hey, thank you, we're moving our headquarters over to the US, and see you later. I know Biden ain't going to be around that much longer, and we'll just settle over there in the US, see how they like them cookies.
that's
they
their
already
makes sense. It's their biggest footprint. I mean, outside of the Hague is where they have the most people.
Right, they could move to any country, not the US, but
I smelled this windfall profits tax coming up about 6 or 8 months ago. I think I made reference to it in an article that I wrote, that it would be coming down the pike. And I was a crude buyer back in the 1970s for a little refinery in Oklahoma. And the funny thing about oil is once you pull it out of the ground, it all pretty much looks the same. And so the certificates that come with it, there was so much corruption and chicanery in all the oil companies, because here in the US, the price of oil was controlled at like $3 a barrel if it was from a well that had been drilled prior to the and I just got running out of time, so we have to upgrade to remove the 40-minute time limit. So we're gonna have to tighten up a bit, Al. I'm gonna move along on this so we can kind of run through our stuff and see what we have. I'm gonna close this out here. But anyway, the windfall profits tax, it's been tried. It didn't work 40 years ago. It won't work now.
Right.
So, all right, I'm going to move on to the company of the week. For that, I picked Ovinative. That's a company you tried to get me interested in about 6 months ago. I mean, you did what you always do. You told me to write about something, and I had so much stuff going on that I didn't do it. And then somebody else who's in our group said, "Hey, what about Ovinative?" And that reminded me that you had pitched it. I bet it was 6 months ago. And so I took a look at it.
It was cheap
and
back then.
there was a lot to like. What?
It was cheap back then. It was like $35.
Right, way cheap, but pretty impressive. As I went through the quarterly and some of the other things the company said. I mean, a lot of this gets a little repetitious, but the price target there of 106 is not unrealistic. I did some calculations of my own on that and came fairly close to it. So
yeah, so that's 100% from here for a large cap company name.
Exactly.
Like that. That's pretty good,
Yeah.
Plus, they're going to be increasing the dividends and all that stuff. Actually, what's helping them out right now, it's the higher price of natural gas up in Canada. That's got to be helping them a lot. The only thing that I'm not too sure is their Oklahoma situation over there. The
Anadarko.
Yeah, right. There's so many people that have had problems over there in Oklahoma. Outfits
I
that,
haven't heard about the
belly
problems.
up.
Talk to me about the problems.
Well, geez, what the heck is the name? There was one outfit that I used to be invested in, and they went belly up because they were all, faking all their numbers and all
Whoa.
that, stuff. And so now, and then now here lately, they've been having all these earthquake things, shoving all this water down these
Oh, yeah. Over injecting.
caverns, and high pressure, and so
Yeah.
they're cracking mountain down there or whatever,
Yeah.
cracking rocks. But
One thing about water is it's incompressible. I mean, you keep pumping it, and it's going to start. Water made the Grand Canyon, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, water by pressure. The Permian stuff is pretty good. The only thing I'm not too up on is what they're doing there in the Anadarko.
Yeah, they showcased the Permian in their call. They're drilling 14,000-foot laterals there, which is pretty impressive. Most of the companies that we talk about, Devon, Pioneer, EOG,
Right.
they're drilling 9,000 or 10,000-foot laterals. So getting out there with 14,000-foot laterals, which means you're getting more oil for basically the same. Once you gear up to drill, your capex is sunk. You can drill 14,000 feet for incrementally a tiny fraction of what it takes to drill 10,000 feet. So good on them. They're making good wells.
Plus, they want to keep their crews, their frac crews busy so that they're not saying, okay, we'll give you 3 months off, and go do some other job. They want to make sure that they keep their same employees, to keep them happy and pay them well so they don't leave or whatever. So they want to keep their oil field service guys happy and they want to keep, going at a slow enough pace where they don't do a lot too much too often, they run out of land or whatever, but they don't want to go big spurts and then slow down or whatever, take time off.
Well, just for anybody who watches it, we see Ovintiv as a strong contender and something that investors ought to take a hard look at. We'll move on to our final slide here. What's coming up for oil the next week? We have the two big weekly reports we get from the API, the EIA. Last week we had a pretty nice draw, which kind of helped underpin oil prices.
Well, that's on top of all the SPR releases too. If they didn't have the SPR releases, there would be even more of a draw.
Well, that's another Biden folly that.
Yeah.
I honestly, I kind of split my side laughing when I heard about that a few months ago. I said, he's doing what? Like it's going to have any effect on it. There's two pictures, two narratives that go that we have a fall off in demand against a lack of supply, but we haven't seen the fall off in demand. The refined products consumption.
Well, and you're not going to see the fall off in demand because now these clowns, what they want to do is give the poor people, or even me, that I guess I consider myself poor. They want to give everybody a stimulus check so that you can go buy more gas.
Please,
to make up for the higher cost of gas. So that instead of people driving less, they're going to say, "Oh, we'll give you the money so you can go buy more." So.
Yeah, none of what they're doing makes any sense.
No.
And we'll kind of, that'll be a regular feature on this series. We have the Fed meeting coming up. They're tightening, talking about starting to taper the balance sheet in addition to raising the discount rate. That's, hopefully to put a check on inflation. They haven't done enough yet. Everything I read. They've been too timid for too long.
Well, yeah, but they don't want to do too much because they don't want to, kill the stock market, and then they're going to even be having even more people, mad at them.
Well, that's
we're
right
gonna do
too.
maybe 50 basis points, but it's always not gonna be enough, and they don't want to do too much. I posted a video today on the chat about this
Yeah.
guy talking about charts, and he was pretty good showing how the charts on the interest rates, how to look for that and keep an eye on the charts.
I'll have to give that a look. I've been doing other things. The
Yeah,
final thing that I'll be looking at is the OPEC monthly report. Let's see how, I forget how, what the lag factor is in that, but are they falling further behind in the face of these new promises to pump more? We'll have to see.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be probably not even make that much difference, because heck, even now the administration is talking about letting Iran ship more stuff, and look the other way, and then now even the Europeans are gonna start importing oil from Venezuela, or refined, well, not
Exactly.
refined products, because Iran still has to go down to Venezuela to fix their stupid refineries that they couldn't buy parts, because they couldn't do the maintenance. They didn't have money for doing the maintenance. So Iran now, it's got a contract to go in there and fix up their refineries for probably I don't know what they barter. They probably have to barter oil.
Right.
But because they're not going to take their money. Actually, Venezuela is now using their dollar for their currency.
Come on. So many countries do though. That's not unusual.
They finally got smart over there in Venezuela, because they had like 4,000% inflation rate. So now their inflation rate using the US dollar is lower than the inflation rate in Argentina. So go figure.
We're in our final seconds here, Al. We might as well wrap up. This has been good fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
I think we
set
covered a
this
lot of
thing
good
up for a
stuff.
little longer, maybe make it an hour or so, or
Yeah, exactly.
less than 1 minute. Oh, I see there. Wow.
Yeah, they're getting ready to cut us off.
Okay.
I'll send you a copy of the file as soon as I can download it, and we'll, you can post it wherever you want. I'll post it wherever I want. We'll see if we can stir up some interest.
Yeah, post it on the chat there. See if people look it up.
Roger that. Enjoyed it, Al. Talk to you again.
Thanks. See you next Sunday.
All right. Bye now.
Bye. All right. That was so did you stop the recording?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, good.